Well, I worked in finance for about 15, 16 years, mainly internationally, and I decided to apply to the program to teach either math or French at the middle high school level. I specifically focused on private, or as they're known, independent schools. To do that search, I went through two main routes. One was using a couple research agents. There's a lot of them throughout the country. Some are focused very broadly throughout the U.S. Some are focused on certain areas within the U.S. and they have a lot of contacts. So I specifically used a California search company called CalSearch, and I used one in the Southeast called Southern Teachers Association, but there's some for each part of the country. The second one was just relying on online resources and friends who are in the business, who are in the schools, and tapping on their shoulders to see if they knew of any openings. The basics were obviously an updated resume. Letters of recommendation are obviously very useful, although that might not be in the first email you send. It's always useful to be able to send those. Some schools required a philosophy of education letter, so generally a one-pager on how your classroom would look like, how you'd go about teaching your specific content area. And then any other information you might have about the school, so just a regular cover letter stating why you're specifically interested in that school in particular. I think really to not get discouraged. The interview process is very idiosyncratic. Sometimes you think you're a great candidate for a certain school and it doesn't lead to anything. Sometimes you think you've got no chance and before you know it you're flying down to that school to interview. And each school's different. Sometimes things are out of your control, so if you do get rejections, which undoubtedly most of us have gotten, don't take it personally and just move on, and there's going to be another opportunity. We know of people getting job offers just here in the last few weeks as we're about to exit the program. So it's not because you see your other friends getting offers early in the process and you haven't, that means that you'll be shut out. Just continue and move on even if you do get a rejection. I'm not sure. I think I used a pretty broad approach. I wasn't tied down to one specific location in the U.S., so I did focus a little bit all over, so maybe that was distraction in a way in terms of I didn't put all my eggs in one basket. So it could work for some people, it might be a distraction for others, but for me I'd rather shoot at a lot of different places and hopefully something comes through. But clearly some people were very specific in their job search and successful very early on because of how specific they were.
Thank you, Mark.
Actually, for independent or private schools, they'll always ask you why that type of school versus the public school system, which obviously most of the people in UO teach will end up in the public school arena. So they want to know why you would rather be in an independent school. Some independent schools have a religious focus or religious affiliation, so they might ask you about your views on that. And then this is a bit more generic, but for those of us that are teaching either languages or math, which happens to be my two areas, you'll often get differentiation questions because in the classroom you'll have very high performers and very low performers, and how you can deal with those two disparities and be an effective teacher, that will go a long way if you do have a few tips. And I think at the end of the day it's very difficult to have the correct answer, but at least have some views on how you might go about doing that.
Good, thank you.